Rain slammed against my windshield like the world wanted to drown me. I gripped the steering wheel until my fingers went numb. My phone screen still glowed with the photo, Evan's hand around Mira's waist, their lips pressed together like my whole life wasn't collapsing around them. I laughed once. It came out broken. "You're kidding me, right?" I whispered to no one. The phone buzzed again. His name. I answered anyway. "Lena, wait, please." "Don't," I said. "Just don't. It's not what it looks like." "Oh, really? Because it looks like you're screwing my best friend." Silence. Then his sigh. "It just happened, Lena. We didn't mean to hurt you." "Didn't mean to?" My voice cracked. "You lied to me for months. It started when you were so busy at work. You were distant." I slammed my hand against the horn. "Don't you dare make this about me." "I'm sorry," he said softly, like that word could glue my heart back together. I ended the call before he could breathe another excuse. Then Mira's name appeared. I almost threw the phone out the window. I answered anyway because I needed to hear it. "Lena," she said, crying. "I didn't plan this. You were in my house last week helping me pick a wedding dress." "I know," she sobbed. "I hate myself." "No, you don't," I said. "You hate that I found out." I hung up. The rain blurred everything. Streetlights, buildings, my reflection. I drove. I didn't know where. Just away. Away from the ashes of everything I believed in. At some point, the car started making a strange noise. Then smoke. I pulled over near a flickering neon sign. Lou's Diner, of course. My life ends at a diner in the middle of nowhere. I stepped out, drenched instantly. My mascara ran like dark rivers down my face. Inside, the diner was nearly empty. A man sat by the window, head bent over a notebook. The waitress looked up. "Rough night?" "Something like that," I muttered. "Coffee?" "Sure, black." When I turned, the man was looking at me. Dark hair, gray hoodie, eyes that looked like he'd seen worse storms than mine. "You okay?" he asked. "Do I look okay?" He smiled faintly. "Didn't think so." "Good, at least you're honest." He nodded toward the window. "Car trouble?" "It died. Like everything else tonight." "Want me to take a look?" "I used to fix cars." I hesitated. "You could be a murderer." He shrugged. "True, but so could you." That made me laugh for the first time in hours. "Fine, knock yourself out." He disappeared outside. Through the glass, I watched him lift the hood, the rain soaking his clothes. He didn't flinch once. When he came back in, he wiped his hands on a napkin. "It's the alternator." "Needs replacing?" "Perfect," I muttered. "Add that to the list of things falling apart." He sat across from me without asking. "I'm Adrian." "Lena. Bad night, Lena?" "The worst." He tilted his head. "Boyfriend?" "Fiancé." "Cheating?" "Best friend." He winced. "That's a double hit." I nodded. "Guess I collect betrayals now." He studied me for a second, then said quietly, "People will always disappoint you when you start believing they won't." I frowned. "That's cynical." "It's experience." "Still depressing." "Maybe, but it's true." The waitress brought my coffee. I wrapped my hands around the mug, trying to stop shaking. Adrian leaned forward. "You look like you haven't eaten all day." "I can't stomach food. I think heartbreak burns calories," he chuckled. "That's one way to diet." I rolled my eyes. "You always this annoying?" "Only when people look like they're about to fall apart." His tone was calm, too calm. It unnerved me. "Why do you care?" "You don't even know me." He looked down at his coffee. "Because I know what it's like to sit in a diner at night wondering if you'll survive tomorrow." Something in his voice silenced me. "Did someone hurt you too?" I asked. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Once. But that's not your story to carry." We sat in silence. The rain softened. "I don't know what to do now," I said finally. "Everything feels gone." "Then start with breathing," he said. "And stop calling yourself broken." I looked at him. "Why are you being kind to me?" "Because someone once was kind to me when I didn't deserve it." I swallowed hard. "You're strange." "Maybe, but you'll be okay, Lena." He pulled a pen from his pocket, scribbled a number on a napkin, and slid it across the table. "Call when you're ready to stop crying." Before I could respond, he stood up, dropped some cash on the counter, and walked out into the night. I stared at the napkin in my hand. My reflection in the window looked like a stranger too. Maybe that's what I'd become. But for the first time tonight, I didn't feel completely alone. The diner lights hummed above me, flickering like they were tired too. My coffee had gone cold, but I kept sipping it anyway. Adrian sat across from me, his hands wrapped around his cup like he needed the warmth more than I did. "You didn't call anyone?" he asked. "No one to call? Fiancé? Family?" I laughed under my breath. "The fiancé's busy ruining my life. Family's probably asleep pretending I'm fine." He nodded slowly. "Fair enough." For a moment, the rain outside was louder than our voices. I wanted silence to be enough, but my chest kept tightening until the words just spilled out. "I saw them together," I said. "Evan and Mira in our apartment, on our couch." Adrian didn't move. "You loved him?" I thought I did. "Maybe I just loved who I believed he was." He leaned back. "That's what betrayal does. Makes you question your own eyes." "I keep replaying everything," I said. "Every lie, every touch, wondering if it was all fake." "Probably not all," he said quietly, "but enough to hurt. Do you always talk like a therapist?" "Only when someone's bleeding in front of me." That made me smile for half a second before I broke. The tears came so fast I couldn't stop them. "I hate this. I hate feeling so stupid." "You're not stupid," he said. "You were in love. There's a difference. Then why does it feel like punishment?" "Because you gave everything," he said. "And they took it like it was nothing." I pressed my palms against my eyes. "I don't even know who I am without him." He leaned forward. "You're still you, just scraped raw." "That's poetic," I muttered. "You write or something?" He smiled faintly. "Used to." Words stopped fixing things, so I stopped trying. I looked at him. "What happened to you?" He shook his head. "Another story. Tonight's yours." "I don't want it to be," I whispered. "I just want it to end." He studied me for a long second, then said, "They broke your heart, not your spine." "Stand up," the words hit like a slap. "You don't even know me." "Don't need to," he said. "Pain looks the same on everyone." I glared at him. "You think it's that easy?" "No," he said softly. "But you've got two choices, drown or swim." I stared at the rain outside, his reflection beside mine in the window. "What if I can't?" "Then let the storm pass," he said. "But don't build a house in it." My throat tightened again. "You talk like someone who's lived inside one." He didn't deny it. Maybe I did. Maybe I still do. We sat there a while, just breathing. The waitress refilled our cups without asking. I watched the steam rise and fade, like everything good in my life lately. "I don't even know why I'm telling you this," I said. "You're a stranger." "Sometimes strangers listen better than friends," he said. "Maybe because they don't have to fix you." He smiled. "Exactly," I looked at him. "You think I'll ever stop hurting?" "One day," he said. "But not tonight," I nodded. "Tonight I just want to stop feeling." He stood then, reaching for his jacket. "You will. Just not by hiding. Where are you going?" He pulled a napkin from his pocket, wrote something quickly, and slid it toward me. "What's this?" "My number," he said. "Call when you're ready to stop crying." I frowned. "And if I don't, then I hope you still make it through." He smiled, sad, quiet, real, and started walking to the door. I called out, "Adrian?" He turned slightly. "Yeah, thanks." For listening, he nodded once. You'd be surprised what people say when someone finally does. Then he was gone, just a blur in the rain. I looked down at the napkin. His writing was messy, like he'd written it in a hurry. I folded it, placed it in my pocket, and whispered, "Maybe tomorrow." The rain eased, but inside me, the storm still hadn't stopped. My apartment felt like a graveyard. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the buzz of unread messages piling up on my phone. "Evan, please talk to me." "Mira, you don't understand what really happened." "Mom, sweetheart, we're worried." "Call us." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I tossed the phone onto the couch and whispered, "I can't." For 3 days I barely spoke. I slept too much, ate too little, and kept replaying the same question in my head. Why wasn't I enough? On the 4th night, I opened my messages and scrolled to the number Adrian had written on that napkin. I stared at it for a long time. My fingers shook as I typed, "Still awake?" I didn't expect an answer. But a minute later, my phone buzzed. "Adrian, you finally texted." I exhaled shakily. "You remembered me?" Adrian. Hard to forget the woman who threatened to accuse me of murder in a diner. I laughed out loud for the first time in days. You were suspiciously calm about that. Adrian. I figured anyone crying that hard wasn't dangerous. You don't know me, I typed. Adrian. I don't have to. You were hurting. That's enough to know. Something about the simplicity of his words hit deep. I wrote back before I could stop myself. What do you do when everything feels empty? Adrian. You start small. Drink water. Open a window. Pretend tomorrow might be better, even if you don't believe it yet. I stared at his message for a long time. Then I opened the window, letting in the city's cold air. There, I whispered. Step 1, I texted him again. I can't sleep, Adrian. Then talk. Tell me something true. Something true? Adrian. Yeah, anything, I thought for a second. I hate the silence in my apartment. It feels like it's judging me. Adrian. Silence doesn't judge. It just reminds you what you don't want to hear. You sound like you've been through this before. Adrian. Maybe I have. I hesitated. You're not very open, are you? Adrian. You talk enough for both of us. I smiled. Rude. Adrian. Honest. That became our rhythm. Nights blurred into conversations that lasted until sunrise. I'd talk about work, my parents, how coffee didn't taste the same anymore. He'd listen, adding short lines that somehow said more than entire speeches. One night I said, You never talk about yourself. I don't have much to tell, he said. Everyone has something. Not everything needs to be shared. Is that your rule? It's how I stay sane. I rolled onto my pillow, staring at the ceiling. You're weird. I get that a lot. Do you ever get lonely? He paused before answering. Sometimes, but I learned to live with it. I wish I could. You will, he said softly. Just not yet. His voice was steady, low and quiet, but grounding. It filled the spaces where my thoughts used to scream. The next night I asked, Why do you keep answering when I text? Because you actually listen. To what? To the things you don't say. I went silent. And what don't I say? That you're still hoping someone will come back. My throat tightened. You're wrong, am I? I hated how calm he sounded. I'm done with him. Then why do you keep checking your phone? I froze. He couldn't see me, but somehow he knew. How do you do that? I whispered. Because I've been you, he said. Different story, same pain. I didn't ask what his story was. For once, it didn't matter. Later, when the silence stretched too long, I said, You're a stranger, Adrian. I don't even know your last name. You don't need to. That's suspicious. He chuckled. Maybe. But you'd rather talk to a stranger than be alone, right? He was right. I hated that he was right. Yeah, I said quietly. Because strangers can't betray you. He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was softer. That's what I thought, too. I wanted to ask what he meant, but he changed the subject, and I let him. By the 5th night, I realized his voice had become my routine. I'd wait for his messages, his calls, the comfort of someone who never asked for more than words, and even though I knew nothing about him, not where he lived, what he did, or why his voice carried so much sadness, I felt something dangerous, alive. The elevator ride felt endless. My reflection in the steel doors looked like a stranger, tired eyes, faked calm. I'd convinced myself I could face them. I was wrong. The moment I stepped into the office, laughter hit me like glass shattering. Mira's voice. Evan's hand on her waist. My stomach turned. Tessa noticed me first. You okay? No, I whispered. But I'm pretending. She followed my stare toward them. They're unbelievable. Parading around like nothing happened. Guess shame's outdated, I said. Evan finally looked up, froze for half a second, then smiled, like he owned the air I breathed. Lena, he said smoothly. Didn't expect you back so soon. I forced a smile. Someone has to do the real work. Mira's laugh was sharp. Still bitter? I bit my tongue. Still pathetic? Her face flushed. You don't know what you're talking about. I know betrayal when I see it. Evan stepped between us. Don't start drama at work. Let's stay professional. Right, I said. You'd know all about professionalism. Like stealing my ideas for the Watson pitch? His jaw tightened. That project was mutual. It was mine. And you know it. Tessa placed a hand on my arm. Lena, don't. Not here. I inhaled through my teeth, turned, and walked away before I said something I'd regret. At my desk, my hands trembled. Tessa leaned over. You shouldn't have to deal with this. I have to, I said. They want me to break. I won't, she hesitated, then fight back. If Evan really stole your work, prove it. I looked at her. You think I should expose him? If he deserves it, yes. I wanted to say I didn't care, but I did. I cared too much. That night, I sat on my couch, the city lights blinking through my window like distant judgment. My phone buzzed. Adrian. Rough day? You could say that, Adrian. You saw them, didn't you? How do you always know? Adrian. Because I've been where you are. Then tell me how to stop feeling like this. Adrian, you don't stop. You choose what to do with it. Like what? Break something? Adrian, revenge isn't breaking things. It's deciding what still matters when everything else is gone. You sound like a philosopher with trauma. Adrian, you're not wrong. I sighed aloud. You ever get tired of being mysterious? He chuckled through the phone. You ever get tired of pretending you're fine? That shut me up. I saw them today, I said finally. He looked happy. And that bothers you? Yes, I admitted. Because I'm still bleeding and they're out there laughing. He was quiet for a long second. Do you want revenge or peace? The question cut through me. Can I have both? Usually not. I don't know, I said softly. I want him to hurt like I do, but I also want to stop caring. That's the trap, he said. Revenge keeps you tied to them. Peace lets you go. So you're saying I should forgive him? I'm saying think before you act. Pain can make you do things you regret. Funny, I said. Pain's the only thing that makes me feel alive. He sighed. Then you've been living wrong, Lena. Silence stretched. My chest ached, but part of me wanted to scream at him. He wasn't supposed to lecture me. Why do you care? I asked. Because I know what happens when you let hate win. I didn't answer. The call ended not long after. Hours later, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed again. A new message, from an unknown number. You should see this. There was a link attached. Against my better judgment, I opened it. A document loaded on my screen, Evan's report for the Watson project. Except every word, every slide was mine. My format, my data, my exact phrases, my heart pounded. I whispered, that bastard? I stared at the message again. No name, no number trace. Just proof. I typed a reply. Who is this? No response. I sank onto the bed, shaking. Adrian, I whispered. Did you? No messages, no calls. Just silence. I didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified. For the first time since the breakup, I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the evidence in front of me, evidence that could destroy Evan completely, and deep inside, something darker stirred. Maybe I wasn't ready for peace after all. The conference room was packed. Screens glowed, people whispered, and my heart hammered so loud I could barely hear anything else. I clutched the folder in my hand, Evan's stolen project, my project, and forced myself to breathe. Tessa leaned toward me. You sure about this? No, I whispered. But I have to. Evan walked in with that fake confidence I once mistook for charm. Mira trailed behind him, pretending she didn't see me. He smiled like nothing was wrong. Morning, everyone. Let's begin with the presentation results. Actually, I cut in, standing. There's something I need to share first. Every head turned. My hands shook, but I opened the folder. This, I said, projecting the files on the screen, is the original Watson proposal. My draft, my data. My words. Evan's voice tightened. Lena, what are you doing? Showing the truth, I said. This proposal was submitted under your name, but it's mine. Every chart, every sentence. You stole it. Gasps rippled across the room. Mira's face drained of color. That's ridiculous. Evan snapped. You can't prove... I can, I said, my voice steady now. The timestamps, the drive logs, the version history, they all say the same thing. He turned toward our boss, panic seeping through his act. She's lying. She's not, Tessa said. I helped her draft it. We both know whose work it was. The silence was deafening. Mira stood abruptly. I'm done, she muttered, grabbing her bag. I can't do this anymore. Mira. Evan reached out, but she pulled away. Don't, she said. You promised this wouldn't blow up, and then she was gone. just like that. He turned back to me, eyes burning. You think this makes you better than me? No, I said quietly. It just makes me free. His face twisted. You'll regret this? I already regret loving you, I said. The meeting ended in chaos. Questions, accusations, our boss's cold voice demanding an investigation. I walked out before anyone could stop me. In the hallway, Tessa caught up. You did it, she said. He's finished. Yeah. My throat felt tight. It's over, but it didn't feel like victory. Just silence, Tessa frowned. You don't look happy. I thought I'd feel something, relief, power, but it's just empty. Maybe that's normal, she said gently. Closure's not always loud. I nodded, pretending to believe her. That night, I sat on my couch staring at my phone. The city outside buzzed like it didn't care that I'd just burned a chapter of my life to ashes. I typed a message. Adrian, it's done. No reply. 10 minutes? 20? Nothing. I called. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. Hey, I said, trying to sound calm. I confronted him. It's over. I thought you'd want to know. Still nothing. I called again. Adrian, where are you? Just say something. Silence. I tried again. I shouldn't have done it alone. You were right, I didn't want revenge, I wanted peace. But now I don't even know what that means. My voice cracked. Why did you disappear now? You're the one who pushed me to stand up. You don't get to vanish. I waited for an answer that didn't come. For the first time, I realized how much I'd leaned on him. His voice, his words, his steady presence in my chaos. And now, without him, everything felt louder. I stared at the phone in my lap. Who are you, Adrian? I whispered. What do you want from me? No answer. I scrolled through our old messages. Every reply felt colder now, like I was talking to a ghost who never really existed. Tessa texted me, saw the report. You okay? I don't know, I typed back. I thought winning would fix me. Maybe fixing you was never about winning, she replied. I dropped the phone and leaned back. The ceiling blurred above me. He's gone, I murmured. They're gone. And I'm still here. The room felt too quiet again. I hated that silence more than Evan's lies. My phone buzzed one last time, but it wasn't him. Just another spam notification. I laughed bitterly. Figures, I walked to the window. The city lights blinked below, like stars pretending to care. Maybe this was what freedom really looked like. Lonely, cold, and silent. I whispered to the glass, You told me not to drown in revenge, Adrian. So why does breathing still hurt? No one answered. Just the hum of the city, and me, standing there, realizing I'd been clinging to a stranger to escape the one person I'd avoided all along. Myself. I barely slept for 3 nights. Adrian was gone, his number unreachable, his messages vanished. I couldn't stop replaying our last call, his warning, his silence. Something didn't fit. I started digging. It began with a name, Adrian Holt, a few old search results, a faded article, and then I found it. Investigative journalist exposes fraud at Bionex Corporation. Wife killed in hit and run weeks later. Bionex. Evan's old employer. My chest went cold. By the time I reached the old diner, I already knew what I'd find. He was there, sitting in his usual booth, same gray hoodie, same empty cup of coffee. When he saw me, his eyes widened slightly, then softened like he'd been expecting me all along. You found me, he said quietly. You didn't make it hard, I said. You left too many pieces lying around. He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit, I stayed standing. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have changed anything? Yes, I said sharply. Because I thought you helped me out of kindness. Not vengeance, he exhaled. It wasn't supposed to go that way. Then tell me what it was supposed to be. He looked down at his hands. I knew who Evan was before you ever mentioned him. My stomach twisted. You knew? I recognized the name, he said. When you told me what he did to you, I saw a chance to expose him, expose the company that destroyed my life. I gripped the edge of the table. So I was just part of your plan? No, he said firmly. You were the reason I stopped hating long enough to remember what I used to be. Don't do that, I snapped. Don't make this sound noble. You manipulated me. I never lied, he said. I just didn't tell you everything. That's not honesty, Adrian. That's control, he flinched. Maybe, but I didn't send that file. Someone else did. Then how did they get it? He didn't answer. His silence said enough. You did it, I whispered. You wanted him ruined. I wanted him accountable, he said. For my wife, for you, for everyone he hurt. You don't get to use my pain to feed yours. He met my eyes. You think I don't know that? I trusted you, I said. You said I could choose peace. And I meant it. But you were the one pushing me toward revenge. I was pushing you to see what he took from you. No, I said, shaking my head. You were pushing me to become you. He looked away. Maybe I was. The waitress passed by, giving us a curious glance. Adrian's coffee sat untouched. I sat down across from him, exhausted. So that's your story? You ruin people to feel better? He looked at me then, eyes darker than I'd ever seen. I don't feel better. I haven't for years. What happened to your wife? I asked softly. She was investigating Bionex with me, he said. We were close to publishing proof of corporate fraud. They threatened us. 2 weeks later, she died. They called it an accident. And you spent the rest of your life chasing ghosts. I spent it trying to make sense of why I survived. I swallowed. You think destroying Evan fixes that? He shook his head. No, but watching another innocent person suffer for the same people. He stopped himself. It broke me all over again. So you used me. I helped you, he said. Maybe for the wrong reasons, but I helped. Did you ever care? His voice dropped. Too much. The words caught me off guard. You reminded me, he said, his voice trembling, of who I was before revenge swallowed me whole. Before I forgot how to feel anything but anger, I blinked hard. Then why disappear? Because you were starting to heal, he said. And I didn't want to poison that. You think walking away makes it clean? No, he said. It just makes it less dirty. I stood. My legs felt heavy. You don't get to decide what I can handle. You're right, he said. But I can warn you. Don't make my mistake. Don't let hate become the only thing keeping you alive. I stared at him, heart pounding. You think it's that easy to forgive? No, he said. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. I turned toward the door. My eyes burned, but I didn't let him see me cry. Lena, he called softly. I stopped, my back to him. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't answer. I just walked out into the rain, tears mixing with the cold drops. Behind me, the diner door closed, and I knew that chapter was ending. But my heart didn't feel lighter. It felt torn between anger and understanding, between who I'd been and who I was about to become. Months blurred together, but silence didn't hurt the same anymore. The city still buzzed, people still betrayed, but I'd stopped expecting pain in every sound. Evan lost his job after the investigation. His name trended for all the wrong reasons. Mira vanished quietly, transferring to another branch across the country. I didn't feel victory, just space. Tessa called one afternoon. You heard about Mira? Yeah, I said. New city, new start. Do you ever miss her? No, I said honestly. But sometimes I miss who I was before I met her. That's fair, she said softly. Are you okay? I'm getting there. You sound lighter. I am, I said. I started therapy. That's huge, Lena. It's exhausting, I said with a laugh. But it's working. I write, I walk. I eat breakfast again. Tessa smiled through the phone. You're rebuilding. Yeah, I whispered. Piece by piece. When the call ended, I opened my journal. I'd started writing every night. Short sentences, sometimes single words. Not about Evan or Mira or even Adrian. Just about me. Today I didn't cry. Today I laughed at something stupid. Today I felt alive for a moment. Weeks turned into months. The ache dulled. The nightmares stopped visiting so often. I booked a trip to the coast, sat by the water, and let the waves remind me that everything ends and begins again. But even with all the healing, one thing lingered. Adrian. His voice. His silence. The way he'd said goodbye without saying it. One rainy afternoon, I found myself driving toward the old diner without planning to. Habit or fate, I didn't know. The neon sign still flickered like always. Inside, the waitress recognized me instantly. Haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, I said, sliding into the booth. Guess life got busy, she smiled. That man you used to sit with, Adrian, right? My chest tightened. Yeah, him. He left something for you, she said, walking behind the counter. Said you'd come back one day, I frowned. He did? She handed me an envelope, yellowed a little at the edges. Been keeping it here? My hands trembled as I took it. Thank you. I stared at the handwriting, familiar, sharp, deliberate. I opened it slowly, half afraid the words would ruin me again. Lena, if you're reading this, it means you made it through. You don't owe me forgiveness. I just want you to know that helping you helped me remember the man I was before I let hate define me. You reminded me that even broken things can shine. Maybe that's what healing really is. Realizing you still have light left to give. I read it twice. Then a third time, the waitress returned. You okay, honey? Yeah, I said quietly. Actually, I think I am. She poured me coffee. You look like someone who just dropped a heavy bag. Maybe I did. I smiled faintly. Do you believe people can change? She chuckled. Only when they stop waiting for someone else to do it for them. That's good advice. It's free, she said. I sipped the coffee. It tasted the same, maybe a little sweeter. Outside, the rain slowed, turning soft against the glass. I folded the letter carefully and placed it inside my journal. I didn't know where Adrian had gone or if I'd ever see him again. But maybe some people are meant to be chapters, not endings. When I left the diner, the air smelled like wet earth and renewal. The world felt quiet but alive. For the first time in a long time, I smiled, and it didn't hurt. The sea was calm that morning, a soft gray stretching endlessly, like it remembered everything and forgave it anyway. I stood barefoot in the sand, the wind brushing my hair across my face. It smelled like salt, freedom, and something close to peace. Mom's voice echoed in my head. You always find your way back to the water, Lena. Maybe because it listens, I'd told her once. Even when no one else does. Today, I wasn't running from anything. I was here to let go. I held Adrian's letter one last time, the paper worn at the edges. His handwriting had faded a little, but the words still carried weight. You reminded me that even broken things can shine. Tessa had texted earlier that morning. You okay out there? Yeah, I'd replied. Just finishing something I should have done a long time ago. She sent a heart emoji. That was all. She understood more than words could say. I took a deep breath and whispered to the waves, You'd like it here, Adrian. It's quiet, peaceful, no lies. No ghosts. The sound of my voice almost startled me. I hadn't spoken to him in months, but somehow it didn't feel strange. Remember the first thing you said to me? I asked the sea, half smiling. They broke your heart, not your spine. Stand up. You were infuriating. The waves lapped closer, soft and steady. But you were right, I said. I stood up. I walked away, I healed. Not perfectly, but enough. I crouched down and let the letter rest on my palm. You helped me fight my demons, even when you were fighting your own. Maybe that's what made it so human. So real. A seagull cried overhead, circling the water. I used to think love was about forever, I said quietly. Now I think it's about moments. The people who show up when the world stops making sense. You were that moment, Adrian. I felt tears prick, but they didn't sting like before. They felt clean. Mom had asked me last week, do you ever wish things turned out differently? I'd said, no, because then I wouldn't be me. She'd smiled. Then you've already forgiven them. Maybe she was right. Maybe forgiveness wasn't for them. It was the gift I finally gave myself. The wind picked up, tugging at the paper. I hesitated. I never got to say goodbye properly, I whispered. You just vanished, like a ghost that had done its job. I laughed softly. You'd hate that I'm getting sentimental. I tore the letter in half, then in half again, and let the pieces fall into the sea. They floated for a moment before the tide carried them away. Thank you, stranger, I said. The words came out steady. For finding me when I couldn't find myself. A voice in my head, his voice, seemed to echo back. You never needed saving, Lena. You just needed reminding. I smiled through the tears. You were still part of the reminder. I stood there until the paper disappeared completely, until the wind dried my cheeks. Behind me, a child laughed somewhere down the shore. A dog barked. The world went on, simple and beautiful. I whispered to the horizon, I don't hate the past anymore. The water shimmered like it understood. I turned away, the the sand warm under my feet. My phone buzzed, a message from Tessa. Lunch tomorrow? My treat, I typed back. Sure, and maybe coffee after. She sent a smiley face. I looked over my shoulder one last time. The waves glowed faintly under the morning sun, carrying bits of my past into the distance. I whispered, "Goodbye, Adrian," then quieter, "And thank you for turning my loneliest moment into something beautiful." The wind swallowed my words, but I didn't need an answer. This time, silence didn't hurt. It healed.